Oh hi. Tripoli, the second largest city in Lebanon, the administrative center of the governorate Northern Lebanon. Located in 85 kilometers to the north from Beirut, it is the capital of the governorate Northern Lebanon and the Tripoli district. From Tripoli the view of east part of the Mediterranean Sea opens, and it is the most northern seaport in Lebanon. Within the territory of the city there is a chain of 4 small islands in the sea. They are also the only islands in Lebanon. Palm Islands were announced by the protected area because of their status of a shelter for the large-headed turtles who were under the threat of disappearance, rare seals, monks and migratory birds. Tripoli borders on the city of El Mina, the port of the Tripoli district with which it is geographically connected, forming Big Tripolian agglomeration. In ancient times there was here a center of Phoenician confederation into which entered the shooting gallery, Sidon and Arvat. For this reason Tripoli is translated from Greek as the threefold city. Later the city was consistently controlled by Persians, Romans, Arabs, Crusaders, Mamelukes and Turks. In the 12th century Crusaders founded the county of Tripoli on this place. With formation of Lebanon and disintegration in 1948 of the Syrian-Lebanese Customs Union of Tripoli, once not being inferior on economic and trade value to Beirut, it was cut off from the traditional commercial relations with the internal regions of Syria and in many respects lost the value as shopping center and a transport hub. Today it is the second largest city and port in Lebanon. Sunni Muslims make 80% of the population. The city is divided into the district of the port of El Minya and actually the city of Tripoli. Tripoli had several various names during a Phoenician era. The name Derbli, perhaps Semitic related to the modern Arab name of the city of Terabulus, is mentioned in Amarnsky letters, and in other places are mentioned Aklia or Valia. The 14th century BB. In a plate devoted to capture of Tripoli by the Assyrian Tsar Ashurnasirpal of 888-859 years BB. The city is called Makalata or Maklata, Maize and Keza. Phoenicians usually called Tripoli Atar. When Greeks lodged in the city, they usually referred to as it. Tripolis. That means 3 cities, under the influence of earlier phonetics similar, but etymologically not the connected name Derbli. Arabs called it Terabulus and Terabulus al-Sham. Levant Bilyad, derivative of the Arab name al-Sham which was given to distinguish it from the Libyan Tripoli with the same name. Today Tripoli is also known as Al-Faida. That it is the term derivative of the Arab verb of afak, smell. Tripoli once was famous for the extensive orange gardens. During blossoming pollen of orange trees extended on all city and vicinities a pleasant smell. Certificates on the settlement on the place of Tripoli are dated still 1400 BB. In the 9th century BB Phoenicians founded the trade station in Tripoli, and later, under the Persian dominion, the city became the center of confederation of the Phoenician city-states of Sidon, the shooting gallery and Arvat. At the Hellenistic board of Tripoli it was used as naval shipyard and the city used autonomy. It got under the Roman board about 64 years BB. An earthquake in Beirut in 551 and a tsunami destroyed Tripoli together with other coastal cities of the Mediterranean. During border Madoff of Tripoli became the shopping and shipbuilding center. It reached semi-independent provision at Bord Fatimida when turned into the center of education. Crusaders besieged the city at the beginning of the 12th century and could occupy, at last, it in 1109. It led to extensive destructions, including burning of the well-known Library of Tripoli, the House of Knowledge, with its thousands of volumes. During government of Crusaders, the city became the capital of the county of Tripoli for 180 years. They constructed Montpellieran's fortress here. In 1289 it fell under blows of Mamelukes, and the old port part of the city was destroyed. Then near the old castle the new internal city was built. During Ottoman dominion from 1516 to 1918 it kept the prosperity and commercial value. Tripoli and all Lebanon were under the French mandate from 1920 to 1943 when Lebanon achieved independence. Ancient period. Many historians deny availability of a Phoenician civilization in Tripoli to 8 and sometimes in 4 centuries BB. Others claim that the bias from the north on the south of Phoenician port constructions on the Lebanese coast indicates earlier age of Phoenician Tripoli. Tripoli was not dug widely out because the ancient city is under the modern city of Elmina. However, several accidental finds are in the museums now. Excavation in Elmin revealed remains of ancient wolves, eels and gazelles, a part of the ancient southern port embankment, a mill, various types of columns, wheels, onions and a necropolis of the end of the Hellenistic period. The sounding made in the Lock of Crusaders found ruins since Bronze and Iron centuries, in addition to ruins of the Roman and Fatimid period. Around Abu Hulk, in the southern entrance to Tripoli, the shelters dated early years and the Middle Stone Age were found. Ruins in Tripoli. Tripoli became financial center and the main port of northern Phoenicia, with the sea trade focused on east and western Mediterranean and also the caravan trade connected with northern Syria and other internal areas. At Selefkedak, Tripoli acquired the right to mint own coins. 112 BB. To it was granted autonomy between 105 and 104 years BB, which it kept to 64 years BB. At the time, Tripoli was the center of shipbuilding and trade in the cedar forest, as well as other Phoenician cities. During the Roman period of Tripoli witnessed construction of important public buildings, including stadium or a gymnasium, thanks to strategic provision of the city to the imperial coastal highway conducting from Antioch to Ptolemais halfway. Besides, Tripoli kept the same configuration from 3 certain and administratively independent quarters: Arvadietsa, Sidancha and Tiritsa. The territory was outside the city, divided between 3 quarters: Period Umayyadov, Abbasidov and Fatimidov. Tripoli purchased value of shopping center for all Mediterranean after he was captured by Arabs. Tripoli was the seaport of Damascus, the second military port of the Arab fleet after Alexandria, the prospering shopping and shipbuilding center, the rich principality under the power of the emir of the Berber of the Ismaili to Bainamara. Legally, Tripoli was included into jurisdiction of the military province in the center with Damascus, Danun Damashq. During the visit of the traveler Nasser Khosrow in 1047, he estimated population of Tripoli approximately at people, and all population was Shiite Muslims. And according to Nasser Khosrow, the Fatimidski Sultan lifted mighty army from Tripoli to protect it from Ramesky, Franksky, Andalusian, Moroccan invasions and attacks. Period of Crusaders. The city became the main town of the county of Tripoli, the Latin state of Crusaders of Levant, stretching from Byblos to Latakia and including the region Akkar with the well-known lock of Crac de Chevaliers. Tripoli was also the residence of the bishop.
Tripoli was the busy port and the large center of a Shelkot Kachestva numbering up to 400 weaving looms.
Lemons, oranges and sugar cane were important products of the time. Within 180 years, during Franksky board, Occitan was one of languages which spoke in Tripoli and the neighboring villages. At the time, the diverse population including the Western Europeans, Greeks, Armenians, Maronites, Nestorians, Jews and Muslims lived in Tripoli.
In the period of Crusades of Tripoli became the witness of growth of the internal settlement surrounding the mountain of the pilgrim.
Citadel. In the built-up suburb including the main religious city monuments such as the Church of the Lord's Coffin of the Mountain of the Pilgrim, including a Shiite shrine, the Tower Saint Church of Maria and Church of Carmelites. The state was the main base of transactions for a military award of Knights Gospitalerev which occupied the well-known lock of Crac de Chevaliers, the UNESCO World Heritage Site today. The state stopped the existence in 1289 when it was taken by the Mamlukski Sultanate led by Kalan al-Mansur. Tripoli fell in 1289 after a heavy siege. The most part of the population of the city was killed, though much managed to run by the ships.
Those who took cover on the neighboring island of St. Thomas were captured by Mamelukes on April 29.
Women and children were taken as slaves, and 1,200 prisoners were sent to Alexandria to work at construction of a new arsenal of the Sultan. Tripoli was wiped out, and Kalan ordered to construct new Tripoli in other place, in several miles from Old, at Montpellieran's bottom. During the Mamlukski period, New Tripoli became the central city and the provincial capital in Mamlukski Syria. Tripoli took the third place after Aleppo and Damascus. The Sultanate was divided into 6 vilayets or provinces which stretched from Byblos in the south, to Latakia and mountains and Saria in the north. They also included Al-Jermil, the plain Akkar and the area where Crac de Chevaliers is located. Tripoli became the large trade port of Syria, supplying Europe with candies, bread and icing sugar, especially in the second half of the 14th century.
A citrus, olive oil, soap and textiles, cotton and silk, especially a velvet,
were main products of agriculture and the small industry. Mamelukes made the ruling class, occupying the main political, military and administrative functions. Arabs made a population basis, religious, industrial and trade. And the main population included aboriginals of the city, immigrants from different parts of Syria, the North Africans accompanying Kalana army during capture of Tripoli, the Lebanese Orthodox Christians, a quantity of families from Western Europe and minority Jews.
The population of Mamlukski Tripoli is estimated at 200,040,000 people against Kard in Damascus and Aleppo in everyone separately.
Mamlukski Tripoli during this period had high growth rate and quickly developed. according to stories by travelers.
The city had 7 waters on the place of the harbor to protect the internal city, including what still costs as Lev's Tower today.
During this period, Montpellieran's Lock was expanded as a citadel of Mamlukski Tripoli. The aqueduct of the prince was reused for water supply from a source ration. Several bridges were built, and surrounding gardens extended due to drainage of swamps. Fresh water was pumped to houses from their roofs. The city form of Mamlukski Tripoli was dictated mainly by climate, a territory configuration, defense and a city aesthetics.
Planning of the main highways was defined according to the prevailing winds and a land relief.
The city had no strengthenings, but the heavy building construction was characterized by compact city forms, narrow and twisting streets for difficult penetration into the city. Residential areas were thrown through streets in strategic points for observation and defense. In the city there were also many loopholes and narrow cracks at intersections of streets.
Religious and secular buildings of Mamlukski Tripoli represent a fine example of architecture of that time.
The most ancient of them were constructed of the stones taken from the destroyed churches 12 and 13 of centuries. Features of architecture of this period are best of all visible in mosques and madrasa, Islamic schools.
Madrasas most of all draw attention as they include very original designs and also jewelry.
One of the best is Al-Batasiya's madrasa, with the elegant facade trimmed with a black and white stone, and highly decorated crossing point over the main door. Public buildings in Mamlukski Tripoli were underlined by means of processing of facades and alignment of streets. Well-faceted and well-processed stones, local sandstone, were used as means of construction and for decorative effects on eminences and around openings. The equipment of a cloud of alternation of the light and dark stone courses. As vertical support-bearing walls were used. Crosscodes occupied the most part of space from prayerful halls to the closed rectangular rooms, galleries around the yards. Domes were constructed over noticeable and important spaces, such as tombs, mihraba and the covered yards.
Typical construction details in Mamlukski Tripoli included crosscodes with the concave grooves which are found in octagonal openings and also simple domes or ridge domes.
Jewelry in Mamlukski buildings concentrated on the most noticeable sites. Minarets, portals, windows outside and mihraba, a wall of a qibla and on a floor inside.
Jewelry at the time can be subdivided into the structural jewelry
found out of buildings and including the environment of construction, such as cloud walls, simple as zigzag stucco moldings, motifs of fish scales, gear crossing points or visuara, inscriptions and mukarna. And the applied jewelry found in buildings and including used marble, a marquee, a stucco molding and a glass mosaic. The main buildings in Mamlukski Tripoli included 6 congregational mosques. The Beit Mosque Mansuri, Mosques Al-Atar, Tainal, Al-Avisayat, Al-Bartasi and Al-Tafbat. Besides, 2 quarter mosques. Ab Al-Vakt and Argan Shah. And 2 mosques built on the waste ground. Al-Bartasi and Al-Avisayat were built. Other mosques represented before. Churches and shops. Mamlukski Tripoli also included 16 madrasas from which 4 do not exist anymore. Al-Zarakiyat, Al-Atar, Al-Rafaya and Al-Umariyat. 6 madrasas concentrated around the big mosque. Tripoli also included a hanaka, a set of secular buildings, 3 hammams, the Turkish baths, which are known for the domes. Hammams were magnificently decorated, and light flowing from their domes strengthens the internal atmosphere of this place. Ottoman period. Tripolian gold Byzant in Arabic, 1270-1300. And Tripolian silver gross, 1275-1287. The British Museum.
During the Ottoman period of Tripoli became the provincial capital and the main town of the Tripoli Eyalet, covering the coastal territory from Byblos to Tarsus and the internal Syrian cities of Homs and Hama.
Aleppo and Damascus were 2 other Eyaleta.
Till 1612 Tripoli was considered as the port of Aleppo.
It also depended on domestic trade of Syria and taxation from mountainous areas.
Tripoli witnessed strong presence of the French merchants within the 17th and 18th centuries and became subject to the intensive inter-European competition for trade. Tripoli was turned into the center of a sandak in the vilayet of Beirut in the 19th century and kept the status till 1918 when he was captured by the British troops. Social jobs in Ottoman Tripoli included restoration of a citadel of Tripoli by Suleiman I.
Later governors made additional changes to the initial structure of the city of Crusaders used as the garrison center and prison. Ain al-Saban, originally military barrack, was constructed in the downtown to control any revolt.
Ottoman Tripoli also became the witness of development of the southern entrance to the city and many buildings, such as Mosque al-Mu'allaq or Trailing Mosque.
1559. Mosque al-Takhan, beginning of the 17th century. And Mosque al-Tafba, the Mameluki construction destroyed by a flood of 1612 and restored during the early Ottoman period. It also included several secular buildings, such as Ain al-Saban, beginning of the 17th century, and Hammam al-Dadat, 1740. Ottomans created several new residential areas surrounding the city of Mamelukes, having increased its size. They doubled number of mosques, schools, terraces, baths and khans until in the city 44 khans appeared. Mosques and schools were adjacent and even met.
Among sites of an Ottoman era reached us the Mosque Mevlavi Dervish Taya, the Mosque Hammam al-Azam,
al-Dadid, Mahmud Bek al-Sandak's Mosque, Mahmud Lotfi al-Zai's Mosque, al-Muaddid, Al-Hamidi's Mosque, Shabal al-Basha, the Mosque Muhammad Pask, the Mosque Sabil al-Zakid and Tabil al-Zakid. The port, Old Tripoli, restored the commercial role. There was a large number of the European representations and also agencies and large warehouses for placement of different goods as cotton, sugar, soap, fabrics, fruit, perfumery, the products from skin, grain, etc. Exported and imported from the port of Tripoli. The Turkish era in Tripoli is the longest Islamic era in the city, extending the influence on the region on the next 4 centuries, except for 8 years of board of Egypt when Ibrahim Pasha, Muhammad Ali's son, captured him in 1832. It returned to Ottoman Turks after Egyptians receded in 1840, then the city passed under the French Mandate in 1918. Present. It remained the most developed among the coastal cities till 1920 when, as well as other coastal cities, it became a part of independent Lebanon. As of 1943, Tripoli was the second largest city after Beirut, and northern Lebanon became the capital of the province. During the civil war in Lebanon in 1975-1990 in Tripoli, as well as in all large cities of the country, there were collisions.
Since 2011, the city became the place of collisions between Sunnites and Alawites in connection with the continuing civil war in Syria again.
See the conflict in Lebanon. 2011-2017.
The previous Bab el-Tabanat conflict, Balmosun, who is one of the repeating aspects of the relations between Sunni inhabitants of Bab al-Tabanika and Alawite inhabitants of Balmosun, revives.
On the night of an Eid al-Fitr from June 3 to June 4, 2019, as a result of terrorist attack, 2 soldiers of the Lebanese army, 2 members of security forces and also the suicide bomber died.
The city is one of leaders of the protest movement of 2019 against policy of confessionalism, corruption and social inequality.
Demography. In Tripoli, vast majority of the population Sunni Muslims. The small community of the Lebanese Alawites is concentrated near Jebel Moksin. Christians make about 5% of the population of the city. Tripoli has hot summer Mediterranean climate. With soft damp winter and in very dry, hot summer. Temperature moderated during the whole year because of the warm Mediterranean current going from Western Europe. Thus, temperature is about 10 C higher in the winter, and in the summer approximately on 7 C in comparison with the internal regions of Lebanon.
Snow, this extremely unusual occurrence which happens approximately time in 50 years. A hail meets quite often and quite regularly in the winter.
Rainfall concentrates in winter months, and summer, as a rule, very dry. In Tripoli there are a lot of coastal islands. The nature reserve of Palm Islands, or the Rabbit Island, is the biggest of islands of 20 hectares. 49 acres. The name Hurinep, or rabbits, comes from a huge number of rabbits who were grown upon the island at the time of the French Mandate at the beginning of the 20th century. Now it is the nature reserve for green turtles, rare birds and rabbits. Announced by UNESCO the protected area in 1992, all activity, dangerous to the nature, is banned. In addition to a picturesque landscape, Palm Islands are also an object of cultural heritage. The evidence of human stay dated by the period of Crusaders was found during excavation of 1973 by Head Department of Antiquities. The Bakarski Island, also known as the island of Abdulvakob, was rented by Adel and Hayreddin Abdulvakob as shipyard, since Ottoman dominion, and still well-known ship and sea contractor. During Crusades it was also known as St. Thomas Island. It is most closer to the coast, and it is possible to reach it on the bridge built in 1998. The name of the island of Belen comes from the plant found on the island and used for production of brooms. Some people claim that the name comes from a word, a blue whale, baleine in French, which appeared at the beginning of the 20th century. The island of Fanner has length of 1,600 meters, 5,200 feet. And is the place where there is a beacon built in the 1968 years. Architecture. The citadel received the name from Raymond D. Singilski, who ruled the city in 1102 and ordered to construct the fortress, which he also called Mont Pelerin. Gore of the Pilgrim. The initial lock was burned in 1289, was repeatedly reconstructed and was restored in 1307, 1308 by the Emir Esendemir Kırgi. Later the citadel was partially reconstructed in Ottoman period and kept the type till this day. Fortress has massive Ottoman gate over which there is Suleiman eyes engraving under whose order fortress was repaired. At the beginning of the 19th century the citadel was carefully restored by the Ottoman governor of Tripoli Mustafa Aga Barbaram. Clock Tower is one of the most sign monuments in Tripoli. The tower is located at Altel Square and constructed by Ottomans as a gift to the city of Tripoli. Clock Tower underwent complete reconstruction in 1992 at personal financing of the honorary Turkish consul of northern Lebanon of Sofki Akari, and the second happened in February 2016 as a gift from the Turkish Prime Minister in cooperation with Committee of Antiquities and Heritage of Municipality of Tripoli, and now Clock Tower works again. Al-Manshai, who is one of the oldest parks of Tripoli, is located near Clock Tower.
This clock tower was built in 1906 in honor of the 30th anniversary of the Ottoman Sultan Abdülhamid II, as well as the Jaffa Clock Tower and many others on all empire.
When Ibn Battuta visited Tripoli in 1355, it described recently founded city of Mamelukes. Crossed by water channels and complete of gardens, he writes, houses are built recently. The sea lies in 2 leagues from us, and ruins of the old city are visible ashore. It was taken by Franks, but Al-Malik attacker Halan took away it from them, and then ruined this place and built the present city. There are fine bathtubs. Really, the hammams constructed in Tripoli by the first Mameluke governors were magnificent constructions, and many of them remained up to now. Some of the most known are Abed, Is el-Din, Hadzb, Dadid.
A Nuri constructed in 1333 by the Mameluke governor Nur el-Din is located in close proximity to the big mosque Tripoli.
Fairground.
It was entrusted to Oscar Niemeyer to design the International Exhibition Center of Tripoli in 1963, but in 1975 the civil war in Lebanon interrupted construction of this modernist site.
The site of 1,000 hectares and its 15 buildings remain in complete concrete structures today. Churches. Many churches in Tripoli are a reminder on the history of the city. These churches also show a variety of Christians in Lebanon and especially in Tripoli. Catholic Church Bishara, Armenian Evangelic Baptist Church, Latin Church, Roman Catholic, Mutransky Church, Armenian Orthodox Church, Greco-Catholic Church, Syriac Orthodox Church of Saint Ephrem, Orthodox Saint Church of Elia, Nanton Church of Pilgrims of Saint Ioan, Catholic Church of Saint Georgie, Orthodox Cathedral of Saint Georgie, Orthodox Church of Saint Georgie, Catholic Church of Saint Joseph, Saint Ioan Maron's Church, Maronite Saint, Church of Maria El Salvador, Maronite Saint Church of Maria, Mikhailovsky Orthodox Church, Mikhailovsky Maronite Church, Labamakab, Mikhailovsky Maronite Church, Orthodox Church of Saint Nikolai, Saint Thomas Church. Mosques. Tripoli is rich, in it there are many mosques scattered on all city. In each district of the city there is a mosque. At the time of Mamelukes many mosques were built, and many of them remain up to now. Some of the most known mosques: Attar, Abu Bakr al-Abama Siddiq, Argan Shah, Huertas, Kabir al-Ali, Mahmud Beg Sandak, Big Mosque Mansouri, Umar ibn al-Khattab's Mosque, Sidi Abd al-Vaqt, Mosque Tawbah, Mosque Tafshik, Mosque Tainal, Mosque al-Bashir, Hamza's Mosque, Mosque of al-Rama, Mosque al-Salam, Al-Ghurab Cemetery, where buried the dead during civil war, is within the city. Education. In Tripoli there is a large number of schools, state and private. The city is also served by several universities within the city and also near the subway. The universities in Tripoli and region of the subway are: Lebanon University of Tripoli, the Lebanese University, the North Lebanese branch, St. Joseph's University, Northern Lebanon, the Lebanese International University, Dakar El Ain, near the city, the Menarski University in Tripoli, Jenin University, Lebanon, the Balamansky University, Helket in the area Kura, at once in the country, the Notre Dame University, Barka in the area Kura, at once in the country, the University of Arts, Sciences and Technologies in Lebanon, the North Lebanese branch, the Beirut Arab University, the North Lebanese branch, the University of the Saint of Esper Catholic Czechia, is in the country, Livano-Francuski Technology and Applied University, Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Azam University. Economy. In Tripoli 36% of the population live below the poverty line and 60% of youth the unemployed. The International Fair in Tripoli, officially known as the International Exhibition Center of Rashid Karami, represents a complex of the buildings designed by the Brazilian architect Oscar Niemeyer. This place was built for holding the World Fair in the city, but construction was stopped in 1975 because of the beginning of civil war in Lebanon and was never resumed. This site includes 15 semi-finished Niemeyer's buildings on the area about 1 km. 250 acres. Near the southern entrance to Tripoli. Commerce. Tripoli, once economically comparable to Beirut, in the last decades fell into decay. Such organizations as Association of Business Incubators in Tripoli, Wyatt, tried to revive the traditional export enterprises, such as production of furniture, handicraft products from copper, soap now, and also to expand new industries, such as offshore programming and new technology inventions. The Special Economic Zone Tripoli, SET, was created in 2008 for granting privileges on many taxes and fees for the investment projects having more than $1 of the capital and more than a half of the workers of Lebanon. It is the site of 55 hectares adjacent to the port of Tripoli. Recently, the development plan for Tripoli under the name Tripoli Vision 2020 was developed and supported by a number of the advisory boards, including influential key government officials and prominent businessmen of the city.
The project objective consists in providing the complex basis consisting of encouragement of investment, training, retraining of personnel, accommodation of talented specialists and promotion of products for revival of city economy. The Tripoli Vision 2020 project was sponsored by Office of the Prime Minister Saad Hariri together with Office of Deputies of Parliament of Tripoli with the complex research conducted by Samir Hreem from SCASINC.
In the Khan Soap Factory, the square yard built around decorated with the fountain soap producing workshops and shops are located. At the end of the 15th century, the governor of Tripoli Yusuf Saif Pasha based Hang al-Saban, hotel of dealers in soap. This market was finished at the beginning of the 16th century, in the last days of government of Mamelukes. Production of soap was very popular in Tripoli. There the market turned into shopping center where soap was made and on sale. After the dealers from Tripoli began to export the soap to Europe. Khan of tailors. Originally flavored soap was offered as gifts in Europe, and as a result in Tripoli developed manual production of soap.
Due to the permanent demand growth, handicraftsmen began to consider soap manufacture as this profession and true art that led to increase in demand for Tripolian soap in various Arab and Asian countries.
Now in Tripoli is made and on sale many kinds of soap, such as soap against an acne moisturizing soap, soap for weight loss and so on that increased export of these soap products. The raw materials used for these types of soap is olive oil. Tripolian soap also consists from honey, essential oils and natural aromatic raw materials such as flowers, petals and herbs. Soap is dried in the sun, on dry air that allows to evaporate to water which served for mixing of various ingredients. Drying lasts nearly 3 months. When water evaporates, on the surface of soap there is a thin white layer from soda which arrives from sea salts. The master very carefully cleans soap by hand until powder traces completely do not disappear. Hang el-Jayatine. Unlike other khans constructed around the square yard, el-Jayatine constructed in the 14th century represents 60-meter pass with arches on each side. Arab sweets. Tripoli is known in the region for the Arab sweets where people consider it one of the main attractions and reasons to visit the city. Some candy stores even created regionally and even internationally recognized trademark, such as Abdul Rahman and Rafat Labama Halab, both still so popular that they opened shops outside Tripoli and sending boxes of chocolates worldwide. Also far. Write comments. Read comments. Interesting people will tell interesting stories. All of good mood and good luck.